Hello. Hi everyone. So yes, I am the gentleman speaker. My name is Ryan Downs. I guess to start off with a little bit of background. I've been struggling with my skin picking, dermatillomania, probably since about the age 3 or 4. It really started when I was running around shirtless in my underwear, like most little boys do at that age, and my sister noticed a little bump on my chest, and she told my mom. And my mom said, "Oh, I'll take care of that for you." So she reached over, and she actually popped this little pimple on my chest. And, oh, there we go. I wasn't actually speaking in the microphone. And I remember seeing that happen, and I was like, wow, I didn't know my body could do that. That's amazing. And I was instantly fascinated by that. And I spent the next couple days, I remember, trying to get more stuff to come out of that little bump. And it got to the point where I was just touching it and rubbing it all day, to the point where it got red and sore and infected. And then my mom had to cover it up with Band-Aids and antibiotic and scold me if I touched it again. So that's kind of where I basically had an introduction to it. Sorry, I'm just checking some notes. And then as I got older, my family would go on camping trips. And I know this is typical of a lot of people with skin picking, is the mosquito bites and insect bites. And my arms were just raw. Because as a little boy, as a child, you run around, you put maybe repellent on once a day, but it's like you're having fun, and then you come in, to your tent at the end of the night, and there's mosquito bites everywhere, and I would just spend the whole night scratching and picking at them until basically my arms were just red and sore and bleeding all the time. And that was really kind of my reality for a very long time. I learned to basically kind of switch locations after a while when I would get those awkward questions and those awkward looks, and I stopped scratching places like my arms and my face, but I would just move to my chest or my back. I didn't start picking my face until around high school. And I remember vividly the first day of high school just looking in the mirror, and my skin was completely clear, nothing wrong with it at all, but I couldn't stop standing there looking in the mirror until I found something. And I found something usually along my jawline. And that's usually my favorite spot to go, was along my jawline. And I would pick there constantly. And there were some very visible sores, and there were some awkward times, and there were times where I just couldn't go to school, and wouldn't go to school, and would beg my parents to allow me to stay home. Sometimes they would let me stay home, sometimes they wouldn't. So one of the things about being a man with this condition is that I get asked about that perspective a lot. And it's not that there aren't a lot of us out there, it's just that there aren't a lot of us that are present in the community, me being one of the very few. I don't really think it's really that different, except for maybe 2 aspects of it. I still have those questions that I get from people and the strange looks, and I still have all the feelings that everyone else has. But I think basically as a young man or as a little kid, I could always come up with a better excuse, or an excuse that would maybe be a little more believable. Like my friend and I, we're running around playing in the woods and he threw a rock at me. Like, that's what little boys do. We're kind of a little wild and violent when we play, and I could always kind of explain it away as that. As I grew older, from the time I was 11 to 21, I worked on a dairy farm, and there was always a lot of physical labor and things like doing hay. My arms would get all scratched up, and I could kind of hide the fact that I had been picking at the scratches. I was feeling, oh, I was doing hay this week, or I was milking a cow and got kicked in the face. That does happen, but not to the degree that I would have like all these sores and blemishes on my face. So I kind of felt like maybe I could come up with a few more excuses that were a little more believable in my situation. The other fact, though, is that there really isn't as much makeup out there for men, unless you basically, you know, embrace your metrosexual side and like go full tilt, kind of Jersey Shore style. Which I haven't gotten to that point. I don't think I will, because I'm starting to become more comfortable with my BFRB, and I'm not as worried about the blemishes, and I've been basically employing some practices that have helped me to curb the skin picking. And like some of our other speakers, I'm not always 100% successful, but it is, I like to view it as kind of like a 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I'm always going to have that step back, but as long as I keep moving forward those 2 steps, then I'll get to where I want to be. And I know I won't be cured 100%, or it's like was said earlier, it is a bit of a golden fleece. So it's learning how to live with it, it's learning how to deal with it. And for me, I would say it's mainly the emotional side of it, the anxiety and the depression. And kind of what I wanted to really kind of talk about is the idea of self-care. And what I found in the last couple of years of researching and like in support and trying to deal with this condition is that I've noticed in myself and I've noticed in the community that there's a real lack of taking care of ourselves. Now, there's the traditional taking care of ourselves, which is the eat properly, the exercise, get enough rest, and all those things are extremely important. But what I'm more talking about is the idea of HALT. And some of you might have heard of HALT. And it's when you get stressed and anxious or you're just not feeling right, it's hungry, angry, lonely, tired. And it's deciding, you know, am I feeling one of those things right now, and do I need to address one of those? So basically when I start feeling stressed or anxious, and that usually starts to get into the skin picking, I stop myself and I try to assess and see if one of those things need to be dealt with. And I've noticed that's really helped me. Oh, I have to close. So with the triggers and the anxiety, or the anxiety and the stress being a major trigger for me, the one thing that I've looked at over the past couple of years that have really kind of opened my eyes is my relationship with certain family members and friends. And it's a bit of a buzzword now, and a lot of people have heard about it, is just the growing condition of narcissism in our society. What I discovered is that I've got some very uncontrolling, or very controlling, unreasonable narcissists that are close to me. And they've been a very destructive presence in my life, to the point where when I was married last year, I had a sister and a sister-in-law that, you know, tried to make the wedding all about them, and to the point where they were so unhappy that one called and screamed at me the night before the wedding, and the other one didn't even show up. So we've named them the Narcissisters now, and that's how we refer to them. Another would be my stepfather, who is no longer in the picture. But what I realized and what we've learned in the support groups is that a lot of people that have BFRBs come from families where there's substance abuse or alcoholism. And that was my stepfather. And if you think about it, someone with a substance abuse is the ultimate narcissist, because they basically see nothing but what their needs are, and everything is sacrificed. And growing up in a situation like that, basically you learn to be less. you learn that all of your needs and all your wants and all your desires are second. And it's been a long battle, but what I'm starting to do is I'm starting to put myself first. And that's been very difficult, and believe me, it's been very difficult for those people that are narcissistic in my life to accept that, and there's been a lot of backlash. But in the end, what I need to do is I need to protect myself from those people. And some of the ways I've been able to do that is to distance myself. And, you know, it's not easy to do when, say, it's your sister or your grandmother. But in the end, I need to surround myself more like people that are here and like my wife and like my nephew. People that are here and they have unconditional love and support. And they'll accept me for who I am, and they'll accept me for, you know, what I do to myself, because, you know, in the end, that's what I need in order to move on. That's what I need in order to continue living. So, I guess the last thing I guess I want to say is that, you know, there's a spectrum of the narcissism, and what we really need to do, or what I feel like I need to do, is I need to fight narcissism with narcissism. I need to be a little bit more focused on what I need. I need to be less sacrificing of my wants, and I need to dream, and I need to try to fulfill those dreams, and, you know, I guess that's it. That's all I have to say.